My boss ignored evidence that his friend behaved inappropriately towards our intern, then told me, Travis is a close friend. Are you absolutely sure you want to go down this road? When I said, you're either with him or with her, he just looked at the ceiling. I resigned the next morning. That was 3 months ago. This morning, he called me for the 5th time begging me to come back. I gave that company 5 years of my life. 5 years of bending over backward to clean up messes that weren't mine. 5 years of being the reason half our top clients stuck around. I didn't need applause, just respect. But instead, I got him. They brought him in like he was the messiah of marketing. The Midas touch, the CEO said. Everything he handles turns to gold. His name was Travis. My gut reaction? Snake. He was the CEO's old friend from college, some hotshot consultant with more failed startups than successful ones. Still, he was charming and loud, and the men upstairs ate it up like candy. The women? We got a different version. Winks during meetings, close-lipped smirks, too long eye contact, and constant comments. You'd look even better if you smiled more. I bet clients really like working with someone who looks like you. HR? Non-existent. Our CEO called us a tight-knit team. Translation? No oversight. Most of us learned to dodge him, avoid being alone in the elevator, pretend to take calls when he walked past. But I caught him one day talking to one of our interns, Emma. She was just 22, fresh out of school, first real job. If you grab dinner with me, he said, I promise I'll put in a word about making your internship permanent. She laughed nervously and practically ran. I almost said something then. Almost. But I didn't. Until a week later, I found Emma crying in the bathroom. She looked pale, shaking. He told me I'd be fired if I didn't get in his car, she whispered. So I did. She didn't go into detail. She didn't have to. She just kept saying, I worked so hard to get here. That was it for me. I documented everything. Emails, messages, Slack threads, screenshots from project platforms showing how he dumped his mistakes on junior staff. I made copies of Emma's statements. Then I went straight to the CEO. He listened with his hands steepled in front of him like some kind of damn monk. When I was done, he sighed and said, Travis is a close friend. Are you absolutely sure you want to go down this road? Emma's already there, I said. You're either with him or with her. He leaned back, stared at the ceiling. We'll compensate the intern, he finally said. But let's not blow this up. It's a delicate situation. Delicate. Right. So I resigned the next morning, but I didn't go quietly. I took my portfolio, my client relationships, my strategy blueprints, everything I had built from scratch. And then I made 3 phone calls. By the end of the week, I had interviews lined up with 3 competitors. 2 weeks later, I accepted an offer, 20% higher salary, full benefits, and a team that already treated me with more respect in the interview process than I'd ever felt at my old job. I even made a call to make sure Emma had a job offer waiting for her once she graduated. Travis was fired within the month, but not before tanking 3 major contracts. The CEO called me 4 times in 1 week, left me voicemails like, I miss your energy around the office, and clients are asking about you. One email even said, if you return now, you'll have full autonomy over your own team. I didn't reply. I'm building something new, something bigger, smarter, stronger. And every time I log in and see my numbers beating theirs, I think about that last thing he ever said to me in the hallway. You'd be prettier if you smiled more. Well, I'm smiling now. Update. He's not done trying, and neither am I. I had a feeling things were about to get even more complicated. And boy, was I right. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of texts from coworkers who'd witnessed Travis making a scene at a restaurant where I was having dinner with clients. He'd shown up hammered, shouting about how I'd ruined his life before security escorted him out. Everyone was super supportive, but it was still embarrassing having my personal drama spill over into my professional life like that. I remember sitting there at the table, mid-conversation with a potential client about their rebranding strategy, when I heard his voice from across the restaurant. At first, I tried to ignore it, hoping it wasn't who I thought it was. But then the volume increased, and I couldn't pretend anymore. My client, a middle-aged woman named Patricia, raised her eyebrows as Travis's slurred words became clearer. My cheeks burned hot with embarrassment as heads turned toward the commotion. The restaurant was one of those upscale places with soft lighting and white tablecloths, exactly the kind of place where a scene is the last thing anyone wants. I gripped my water glass so tightly I thought it might shatter in my hand. Travis's face was red, his tie loosened and crooked. He pointed at me from across the room, knocking over someone's wine glass in the process. The dark red liquid spread across the white tablecloth like blood. 2 servers approached him cautiously while the maitre d' called security. I sat frozen, unable to move or speak, as Travis continued his tirade. Patricia reached across the table and patted my hand sympathetically. Don't worry, she whispered. We've all had difficult colleagues. When security finally arrived, 2 broad-shouldered men in black suits, Travis tried to resist. He grabbed onto a chair, knocking it over with a loud crash that made everyone in the restaurant jump. As they dragged him toward the exit, he kept shouting my name, making wild accusations that echoed through the now silent dining room. The door finally closed behind them, and an uncomfortable quiet settled over the restaurant. I could feel dozens of eyes on me, curious and pitying. My phone rang while I was getting dressed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. It was the police. Travis had been released on bail that morning. The officer warned me to stay vigilant and document any contact. The officer's voice was matter-of-fact, professional, but with an undercurrent of concern that made my stomach knot up. We've flagged your address in our system, he explained. Any calls from your location will get priority response. I thanked him, my fingers trembling slightly as I hung up. I stared at my closet, suddenly second-guessing my outfit choice. The red blouse I'd picked out seemed too bright, too noticeable. I switched to a muted gray sweater instead, something that wouldn't draw attention. As I pulled it over my head, I caught my reflection in the mirror, dark circles under my eyes from another restless night, my face paler than usual. I looked like someone being hunted. I called Emma immediately to warn her. When she didn't pick up, I left a message and texted, "Travis out on bail. Be careful. Call me." I tried her number 3 more times while getting ready, each call going straight to voicemail. My anxiety grew with each unanswered ring. What if he'd already found her? What if he was waiting outside her apartment right now? I remembered how small and vulnerable she'd looked that day in the bathroom, tears streaming down her face. The memory made my resolve strengthen. I wouldn't let him hurt her again. I grabbed my pepper spray from my nightstand drawer and slipped it into my purse before heading out. The drive to work felt different that morning. I checked my rearview mirror constantly, scrutinizing every car that stayed behind me for more than a few blocks. A red sedan 3 cars back made my heart rate spike until it turned off at a gas station. The familiar route I'd driven hundreds of times now felt dangerous, exposed. Every stoplight was an opportunity for someone to pull up beside me. Every parking garage was full of shadowy corners where someone could be waiting. When I got to work, Diane called me into her office right away. I thought she might be annoyed about the restaurant scene, but instead, she slid a folder across her desk. "Security footage from last week," she said. "The night you heard someone trying your office door." Diane was my new boss, tough but fair, with short silver hair and reading glasses that perpetually hung from a chain around her neck. Her office was immaculate, everything in its place, a stark contrast to the chaos that had entered my life. The leather chair creaked as I sat down, the folder heavy in my hands. My fingers hesitated at the edge of it, suddenly afraid of what I might see inside. I opened it. Inside were grainy printouts from the building's security cameras. One showed Travis entering through a side door that should have been locked. Another showed him trying my office door. A third showed him leaving 15 minutes later. The images sent a chill down my spine. In the first photo, Travis was looking directly at the camera, a small smirk on his face like he knew he was being recorded and didn't care. His confidence was terrifying. The second image showed him at my office door, his hand on the handle, his body leaning into the door as he tried to force it open. What would have happened if the door had been unlocked? If I had been working late that night? The third image showed him leaving, something tucked under his arm that hadn't been there when he entered. The timestamp in the corner read, 11:47 p.m., nearly midnight. What normal person enters an office building at that hour? Why didn't security catch this before? I asked. Diane sighed. The guard on duty that night didn't check the cameras until this morning after I specifically requested it. He's been fired. I felt sick. Travis was in our building. What was he doing for 15 minutes after trying my door? The question hung in the air between us. Diane's expression was grim, her lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't have an answer, and somehow that was worse than any speculation. The not knowing, the possibilities. I remembered the layout of our floor. My office was near the server room, near the supply closet where we kept spare laptops and equipment, near the filing cabinets with client information. I got my answer around noon. Our entire email system went down, then the shared drives, then our client management software. IT determined someone had installed malware on our network. It had been dormant until today, when it activated and started corrupting files. The office descended into chaos quickly, phones ringing constantly as clients called to report they couldn't access their accounts. The IT team rushing from computer to computer, their faces growing increasingly concerned, printers spitting out random pages of code, screens freezing or displaying error messages in bright red text, the normal hum of productivity replaced by frustrated sighs and worried conversations. I sat at my desk watching the mayhem unfold, knowing exactly who was responsible. Our IT director, a lanky guy named Marcus with thick glasses and perpetually disheveled hair, stopped by my desk around 2 p.m. His face was pale, his expression grave. "Whatever this is," he said quietly, "it's sophisticated, professional grade, not something an amateur could pull off." I nodded, not surprised. Travis might be many terrible things, but he wasn't stupid. And he had money to hire someone with the skills he lacked. By late afternoon, Marcus had more news, none of it good. The malware was targeting specific files, he explained to the emergency management meeting, client lists, financial records, and, he paused, looking directly at me, your personal files specifically. My stomach dropped. Every email I'd sent or received, every document I'd created, every presentation, all potentially compromised. That evening, Emma finally called back. "Sorry I missed your call. I was in class. Travis really got bail?" "Yeah," I said, rubbing my eyes. "And I think he hacked my company's systems before he got arrested." Emma was quiet for a moment. "He came to my campus again today, just stood outside the library staring at me. I called campus security, but he was gone by the time they arrived." My blood ran cold. "He's violating the restraining order. Call the police." I could hear the fear in her voice, barely contained beneath a forced calm. She described how she'd spotted him from inside the library, just standing there on the path, hands in his pockets, watching the entrance. "I ducked behind a bookshelf," she said. "Waited 20 minutes before looking again. He was still there, in the exact same position, like a statue." The image was disturbing. Travis's stillness, his patience, his determination. This wasn't a man acting on impulse anymore. This was calculated. When I got home that night, my apartment door was slightly ajar. I froze, keys in hand. I backed away slowly and called the police. They arrived quickly, swept my apartment, and found no one inside. But things had been moved, drawers left open, my laptop was gone, and on my bedroom mirror, written in what looked like lipstick, "I know everything about you." The lipstick was mine, a shade of red I rarely wore. drawer, saved for special occasions. He'd found it in my bathroom drawer and used it to leave his message. The sight of my own makeup used against me made me feel violated in a way that was hard to articulate. The officers took photos, dusted for fingerprints, asked me questions about what was missing, but all I could focus on was that message on the mirror, the letters slightly smeared but perfectly legible. My bedroom, my most private space, had been invaded. The sheets on my bed were rumpled, as if someone had sat there, or worse. I couldn't stay there. I packed a bag and checked into a hotel, then called Diane to tell her what happened. Jesus, she said. This guy is unhinged. Where are you now? I told her about the hotel. She insisted I stay with her instead. My husband's out of town, and I have a guest room. It's safer than a hotel where anyone can find you. I was too exhausted to argue. I checked out and went to Diane's place in a gated community. The security guard at the entrance to Diane's neighborhood checked my ID carefully before letting me through. The streets were quiet, lined with large houses set back from the road, each with manicured lawns and security systems. Diane's house was at the end of a cul-de-sac, a two-story brick home with warm yellow light spilling from the windows. It looked safe, normal, the opposite of how my life felt at the moment. Inside, Diane showed me to the guest room, a peaceful space with pale blue walls and a large, comfortable-looking bed. Bathrooms through there, she said, pointing to a door. Clean towels in the cabinet. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen. Her kindness nearly broke me. I'd been running on adrenaline all day, and now, in this safe space, I felt my defenses crumbling. My eyes filled with tears that I quickly blinked away. Diane pretended not to notice, giving me a moment to compose myself. Thank you, I managed to say, for everything. She squeezed my shoulder gently. Get some rest. Things will look clearer in the morning. But I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message on my mirror. I kept imagining Travis in my apartment, touching my things, sitting on my bed, planning his next move. Around 3 a.m., I gave up and went downstairs to make tea. The kitchen was dark, except for the dim light above the stove. I moved quietly, not wanting to wake Diane. As the kettle heated, I stared out the window at the peaceful neighborhood, wondering how my life had spiraled so dramatically in just a few weeks. The next morning, Richard called. This time, I answered. What do you want? I asked. We need to talk, he said. About Travis. There's nothing to talk about, I said. He broke into my apartment last night. He's stalking Emma. He hacked my company's systems. He's out of control. Richard sighed. That's why I'm calling. He's making accusations about you. Serious ones. Says you planted evidence against him, that you seduced him and then cried harassment when he rejected you. I nearly choked. That's insane. You know that's not true. I know, Richard said. But he's telling everyone who'll listen, including our board members, and he's threatening to sue the company for wrongful termination. Richard's voice had that smooth, practiced quality that I remembered from client presentations, the voice he used when trying to manage a situation spiraling beyond his control. I could picture him in his office, probably wearing one of his expensive tailored suits, phone pressed to his ear with one hand, while the other fidgeted with his Mont Blanc pen. Always the picture of corporate success, even as everything crumbled around him. Now I understood why Richard had been calling so much. He wasn't trying to get me back. He was trying to cover his own A's. What do you want from me? I asked. A statement, he said, on record, clarifying what happened. I already gave you one when I quit, I reminded him. You chose not to act on it. Things are different now, he said. The board is involved. There's talk of an independent investigation. I laughed bitterly. Now you want an investigation? When it might affect your job? Not when an intern was sexually harassed? Please, Richard said, his voice dropping. I'm trying to make this right. No, I said. You're trying to save yourself. Too late. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer. She advised me to ignore Richard for now and focus on documenting Travis's escalating behavior. My lawyer, Melissa, was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who specialized in workplace harassment cases. I'd found her through a women's professional network, and from our first meeting, I knew she was exactly what I needed. Someone who wouldn't be intimidated or charmed by corporate politics. Forward me all communication from Richard, she instructed. Don't delete anything, and keep a detailed log of every incident with Travis. Times, dates, witnesses, police report numbers. Around noon, I got a text from an unknown number. Check your email. I ignored it, but my phone immediately rang. Same number. Hello? I answered cautiously. It's me, Travis said. My heart stopped. Did you check your email yet? His voice sent a jolt of fear through me so strong I nearly dropped the phone. It was the first time I'd heard it since the restaurant incident. Smooth and controlled, not the slurred shouting from that night. Somehow, this calm version of Travis was even more frightening. I could hear background noise. Traffic, maybe? Was he in a car? Following someone? Following me? I hung up and blocked the number. Then I checked my personal email with shaking hands. There was a message from an anonymous address. The subject line, your private life. Inside were photos. Me entering Diane's house. Me at the grocery store yesterday. Me talking to the police outside my apartment. And most disturbing of all, screenshots of my text messages with Emma. The message below the photos read, I have access to everything. Your texts, your emails, your location. Back off, or I release all your private information online. Starting with your little intern friend's statement about what happened in my car. The photos were high quality, clearly taken with a good camera with a zoom lens. In one, I was getting out of my car in Diane's driveway, my overnight bag slung over my shoulder. My face was clearly visible, looking tired and stressed. In another, I was selecting produce at the grocery store, examining an apple with intense concentration. A moment so mundane it was disturbing to see it captured by someone watching me. The most recent was from just hours ago, me standing on the sidewalk outside my apartment building talking to 2 police officers, my arms wrapped around myself protectively. I felt sick. How had he gotten my texts? My location? Then I remembered my missing laptop and my phone. Had he somehow hacked that too? I called Emma immediately. Change your phone number, I told her, and your email password. Travis has been accessing our messages somehow. What? She sounded panicked. How? I don't know. I admitted, but he's threatening to release your statement online. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Let him, she finally said, her voice stronger than I expected. I'm not ashamed of what happened. He should be. I was surprised by her courage. Are you sure? It could get messy. I'm sure, she said. I'm tired of hiding, of being scared. Let him do his worst. Her bravery humbled me. This young woman who had already been through so much was refusing to be intimidated further. I thought about how Travis had targeted her specifically because she was young, new, vulnerable, how wrong he had been about her strength. I forwarded the email to my lawyer and the police, then went to the Apple store to get a new phone. The store was crowded, full of people testing the latest devices, talking to blue-shirted employees, waiting at the Genius Bar, normal people with normal problems. I felt like I was moving through their world, but not part of it anymore. The technician who helped me was young, probably Emma's age. He frowned when I explained I needed to completely replace my phone due to security concerns. We can do a factory reset, he suggested. I shook my head. Not good enough. I need a new device, new number, new everything. Something in my expression must have conveyed the seriousness of the situation because he stopped asking questions and processed the exchange quickly. That night, Diane and I were eating takeout when her doorbell rang. She checked the security camera on her phone. It's a delivery guy, she said, getting up. I'm not expecting anything, though. I felt uneasy. Wait, I said. Let me see. I looked at her phone. The man was wearing a delivery uniform and holding a package, but something seemed off. He was standing at an angle, face partly hidden from the camera. Don't answer it, I said. The small screen showed a man in a brown uniform, cap pulled low over his face, holding what looked like a standard package. But his stance was wrong. Tense, alert, not the bored posture of someone making their 50th delivery of the day. And the package had no visible shipping label from what I could see. My instincts screamed danger. The doorbell rang again. Then someone started pounding on the door. Open up, Travis's voice. I know you're in there. His voice had changed completely from the controlled tone on the phone earlier. Now it was wild, desperate. The pounding continued, each impact making the heavy wooden door shudder in its frame. Diane and I exchanged terrified glances. How had he found me here? The gated community was supposed to be secure. Had he followed me, bribed the security guard, or had he been tracking my phone all along? Diane grabbed her phone and called 911 while I turned off the lights. We moved away from the windows. Police, Diane said into the phone. There's a man trying to break into my house. He's violating a restraining order. The pounding continued. Then we heard glass breaking. Travis had smashed a side window. The sound of shattering glass made us both jump. It came from the direction of the kitchen, a window next to the back door. We heard the crunch of glass under shoes, then the sound of the back door being unlocked from the inside. Travis was in the house. He's breaking in, Diane whispered urgently into the phone. Please hurry. I looked around for something to defend ourselves with, grabbed a heavy lamp. Diane found a baseball bat in her hall closet. We heard Travis stumbling around in the front room, knocking things over. Where are you? He called out. Come out, wherever you are. His voice had a sing-song quality that was deeply unsettling. We could hear him moving through the house, opening doors, searching rooms. Something crashed to the floor, probably one of Diane's decorative vases. Each sound made us flinch. The 911 operator was still on the line, her voice a tiny, tinny sound from Diane's phone, telling us to stay hidden, that officers were on their way. We'd locked ourselves in Diane's bedroom. The 911 operator was still on the line, telling us police were 3 minutes away. You ruined everything, Travis shouted, his voice closer now. My career, my reputation, and for what? That little intern was asking for it. I felt rage building inside me. This man had terrorized Emma, had broken into my apartment, had hacked my company, and now he was in Diane's house, still blaming everyone but himself. His footsteps were right outside the door now, heavy and deliberate. The doorknob rattled as he tried it, found it locked. There was a moment of silence, then a soft laugh that made my skin crawl. He tried the bedroom door handle, found it locked, started kicking the door. Travis, I shouted. The police are coming. You need to leave now. Not until we talk, he yelled, kicking harder. The door frame was starting to splinter. Each kick made the door shudder. Small cracks appeared in the frame. Diane and I positioned ourselves on either side of the door, weapons ready. If he got through, we'd be ready. I could hear sirens in the distance, but they still sounded far away. Too far. The door wouldn't hold much longer. The wood around the lock was starting to splinter, small pieces falling to the carpet with each impact. The door burst open. Travis stumbled in, wild-eyed and disheveled. He had a bottle in one hand, had clearly been drinking again. There you are, he slurred, focusing on me. The bitch who ruined my life. His eyes were bloodshot, his delivery uniform rumpled and stained. The cap was gone, revealing his hair matted with sweat. The bottle in his hand was expensive whiskey, half empty. He swayed slightly, but his gaze was focused and full of hate. He lunged forward. I swung the lamp. It connected with his shoulder, sending him staggering sideways. Diane raised the bat, but before she could swing, Travis grabbed her arm. The lampshade flew off when I hit him, the bare bulb shattering against his shoulder. He grunted in pain but recovered quickly, grabbing Diane's arm as she tried to swing the bat. She cried out as he twisted her wrist, forcing her to drop the weapon. It clattered to the floor, rolling under the bed. I hit him again with the broken lamp. He let go of Diane and turned on me, rage in his eyes. He grabbed my throat and pushed me against the wall. I should have done this a long time ago, he growled. His fingers dug into my throat, cutting off my air. His face was inches from mine, his breath reeking of alcohol. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. I clawed at his hands, trying to break his grip, but he was too strong. Diane swung the bat. It hit Travis in the back. He grunted in pain but didn't let go of me. I couldn't breathe. Spots danced in my vision. Then suddenly Travis was yanked backward. He fell to the floor and I saw police officers standing over him. They'd arrived just in time. The sudden release of pressure on my throat made me gasp, sucking in air desperately. I slid down the wall, legs too weak to support me. One officer was on top of Travis, forcing his hands behind his back while another helped Diane. A third knelt beside me, asking if I needed medical attention. I shook my head, still unable to speak, my throat burning with each breath. They handcuffed Travis as he shouted obscenities and threats. This isn't over, he kept yelling as they dragged him out. I'll get you both. I sat on the floor, gasping for breath. Diane knelt beside me, asking if I was okay. I nodded, though my throat felt crushed. The police took our statements. This time, they assured us Travis wouldn't get bail so easily. Breaking and entering, assault, violating a restraining order. He'd be held until trial. After they left, Diane and I sat in her kitchen, still shaking. I'm so sorry, I said. I never meant to bring this to your doorstep. She shook her head. This isn't your fault. It's his. Only his. My phone rang. Richard again. I decided I might as well answer. What now? I asked. Travis was just arrested again, he said. At your boss's house? Yeah, I said. He broke in and tried to strangle me. Richard was quiet for a moment. Jesus, he finally said. I had no idea it had gone this far. What did you think was happening? I asked. That I was making it all up? That Emma was lying? That the restraining orders were just for fun? No, he trailed off. Look, the board wants to meet with you, and Emma, if she's willing. They've seen the evidence you collected. They want to apologize. I laughed. A bit late for that. There's more, Richard said. Travis apparently embezzled company funds before he left. Almost $100,000. The board just discovered it during the investigation. That explained how Travis had been living without a job, and possibly how he'd paid for whatever technical help he'd gotten to hack my systems. So now you care, I said. Now that he's stolen from you. I know I handled this all wrong, Richard admitted. I should have listened to you from the start. About Travis. About Emma. Everything. Yes, I agreed. You should have. Will you meet with the board? He asked. Please? They're prepared to offer a settlement. To both you and Emma. I'll talk to Emma. And my lawyer. But I'm not promising anything. After hanging up, I filled Diane in on the conversation. She looked thoughtful. You know, she said, if your old company offers a decent settlement, you could use it to start your own firm. Be your own boss. The idea was appealing. Very appealing. But first, I needed to make sure Travis stayed behind bars this time. The next day, Emma and I met with the detective handling Travis's case. They'd searched his apartment and found disturbing evidence. A wall covered with photos of me. A detailed schedule of my movements. Notes about Diane, Emma, even my parents who lived in another state. He was planning something big, the detective said. Based on his notes, he was going to try to abduct you this weekend. I felt cold all over. If he hadn't lost control and come to Diane's house early. We also found evidence connecting him to the hack at your company, the detective continued, and the break-in at your apartment. He won't be getting out anytime soon. Later that week, Emma and I met with my old company's board of directors. Richard looked uncomfortable as we entered the conference room. Good. The board chair, an older woman named Meredith, started with an apology. What happened to both of you was inexcusable, she said, and our company's response was equally inexcusable. She slid folders across the table to each of us. Inside were settlement offers, very generous ones, along with signed statements acknowledging the company's failure to address sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment. My lawyer, who was present, raised her eyebrows at the numbers. This is a good start, she said. But given the severity of what occurred and the ongoing trauma my clients have experienced, we'll need to discuss adjustments. The negotiations took hours. By the end, Emma and I both had settlements that would set us up nicely. Emma could finish school without worrying about money, and I could start my own agency, just as Diane had suggested. As we were leaving, Richard tried to speak to me privately. I really am sorry, he said. I was blind. Stupid. I looked at him for a long moment. Yes, I agreed. You were. And it nearly got me called. His face fell. Is there anything I can do to make it right? Just one thing, I said. When Travis comes to trial, testify. Tell the truth about what you knew and when you knew it. Don't protect him anymore. Richard nodded slowly. I will. I promise. That night, I had dinner with Diane to thank her for everything. I'm going to start my own agency, I told her. The settlement gives me enough capital to get started. She smiled. I figured you might. That's why I wanted to make you an offer first. What kind of offer? Partnership, she said. Here at Apex. Equal stake. Your name on the door next to mine. I was stunned. Are you serious? Completely, she said. You're the best in the business. I'd rather have you with me than competing against me. It was tempting. Very tempting. Working with Diane had been amazing. But after everything that had happened, I needed a fresh start. Something that was completely mine. I'm honored, I said. Really. But I think I need to do this on my own. She nodded, understanding. The offer stays open. And in the meantime, maybe we can collaborate on projects. Be allies instead of competitors. I'd like that, I said. 2 weeks later, Travis's trial date was set. The prosecutor had mountains of evidence. The breaking and entering, the assault, the stalking, the hacking, the embezzlement from my old company. He was facing serious time. Then, a week before the trial, I got a call from the prosecutor. Travis wants to make a deal, she said. What kind of deal? I asked, immediately suspicious. He'll plead guilty to all charges if his sentence is capped at 10 years, she explained. With good behavior, he could be out in 7 years. It seemed both too long and not long enough. What do you think? I asked. Honestly, it's a good deal for us, she said. Trials are unpredictable. With a plea, we get a guaranteed conviction, and 10 years is significant. I talked it over with Emma, my lawyer, and Diane. Everyone agreed the plea was the safest option. Guaranteed punishment without the trauma of testifying. So I agreed. At the sentencing hearing, the judge allowed victim impact statements. Emma went first, describing how Travis had changed her life, made her fearful, distrustful, but also stronger. When my turn came, I looked directly at Travis as I spoke. You thought you could break me, I said. You thought you were powerful. But look at us now. I'm building something new, something better, and you're going to prison. Travis glared at me throughout my statement. When the judge asked if he wanted to speak, he stood up. She's lying, he said, pointing at me. They both are. They set me up. This whole thing is a conspiracy to... The judge cut him off. Mr. Travis, I've reviewed all the evidence. The photos in your apartment, the notes detailing your plans to abduct Ms. Narrator, the malware on your computer matching what was used in the Apex marketing hack, your fingerprints in her apartment, the security footage of you breaking into her office building, your prior arrest record, the testimony from multiple witnesses about your behavior toward women in the workplace. Travis tried to interrupt, but but the judge continued. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Your continued denial shows a disturbing lack of remorse or insight into the gravity of your actions. The judge sentenced him to the full 10 years, with additional requirements for therapy and monitoring upon release. Outside the courthouse, reporters were waiting. They asked for statements, but Emma and I declined. This wasn't about publicity. It was about closure. Richard was there too, hanging back from the crowd. He'd testified as promised, admitting he'd ignored warning signs about Travis, that he'd prioritized friendship over employee safety. His testimony had helped secure the plea deal. He approached cautiously. Is it over now? He asked. I thought about it. Was it over? Travis was going to prison. My new business was taking off. Emma was thriving at her new school. In many ways, yes, it was over. But the experience had changed us all, made us more cautious, more aware of the darkness that can hide behind charm and credentials. As over as it can be, I finally answered. As Richard walked away, Emma joined me. Ready to go? She asked. I looked at the courthouse one last time. Travis was in there somewhere, being processed for transfer to prison. For years, I'd be able to check a website and see exactly where he was. Behind bars, away from us. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. We walked away together, toward our cars, toward our futures. The fear wasn't completely gone. I still checked my rearview mirror more than necessary, still jumped at unexpected noises, still kept my new address private. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again, like I could plan more than a day ahead, like I could build something lasting without looking over my shoulder constantly. Travis had tried to destroy me, but in the end, he only made me stronger, more determined, more successful. And as I drove away from the courthouse that day, I finally allowed myself to smile, a real smile, not for him, not for anyone watching, just for me, because I'd won.